Sorry about the delay, guys. Okay, so while Dia is sharing her slides with me, I can get started. Thank you everyone for coming and hopefully and joining this webinar, and hopefully we all learn a lot from this webinar. So the topic, let me just admit some people. So the topic of today's webinar is quite interesting. Dia, did you get my slides?
Yep.
Great. So the topic of today's Link and Share event is medical student experiences, and that too with an international perspective. So being a medical student, before I start, I would like to begin by acknowledgement of the country. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, who are the traditional owners of the land on which I am broadcasting to you from today, as well as other traditional owners of the land where we are from all around Australia. And I pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. So let's get to a proper start. Thank you everyone for coming and joining this webinar session. This webinar session is a part of our Link and Share series, which is a limb of the Link program by the Australian National University, which aims to connect people all around the world for collective learning and excellence. My name is Upasna, and I'm a final year ANU medical student here in Canberra. So being a medical student is quite tough, and it brings its own challenges, which might not be applicable to students from other courses, albeit they have their own challenges. On top of that, medical student experiences vary all around the world, and the recent pandemic has caused quite an upheaval in a lot of in lives of a lot of medical students, especially in context of their education, learning, placements, and also their personal lives. So today, a lot of medical students, sorry, was anyone saying something?
No, I think it's just feedback. All good.
Oh, sorry. So today, medical student leaders from Australia, Bangladesh, India, and Indonesia have come together to share their experiences about what life is like being a medical student in their respective countries, and how the pandemic has affected their education and training, and in what ways medical students were actively involved in the pandemic response in their countries. So we have esteemed speakers, Dr. Shahrukh Shahriar, Dr. Sam Jarami, Kausalya Arini, and Dr. Avi Singh. So before we start our actual session, on to the next slide, please. Yeah, I would like to pass the baton on to Sushank to talk very briefly about the upcoming SpeedNet session. Over to you, Sushank.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sana, and lovely to see you guys today here. I don't know why, for some reason, I can see 3 extra me's in the session. There's like 3 more of three of me joined the session. But yeah, so basically I wanted to introduce the SpeedNet, the idea of SpeedNet for you guys. So one of my dreams is to have a friend or know someone in each country in the entire world. And if that is a medical student, I think that's even better. So this project was started with those intentions to connect people all across the world so that we can get to know each other, understand each other's hardships, perspectives, and hopefully one day even do an overseas placement where you would know a friend that you can rely on later on. So that's what this session is all about. And I would encourage all the speakers that are speaking today, and they've achieved amazing things. And I'm sure everyone's going to be very interested in asking more questions. So really encourage the speakers to stay back for the session, and so that we can get to know each other a bit better. So yeah, on to Sana back again.
Thank you for that, Shashank. On to the next slide, Dia. Right, so this is our acknowledgement, agenda for today. We already done the acknowledgement of the country. Now we will be hearing from our esteemed speakers, and then finally the speed networking session. Next slide, Dia. Great. So please note that feel free to use the chat function below to ask us any questions that you have. We will be hearing from all of the speakers first, and then we will be going through the questions and have a panel discussion. This talk is being recorded, and if anyone doesn't want to submit their question for everyone to see, they can directly message me and I will bring that forward. If you guys have any questions, feedback about the link and share this webinar or any of our future events, or if you would like to volunteer, please reach out to us using this email, international.health@anu.edu.au. So with those formalities done, let's introduce our very first speaker, Dr. Shahrukh Shahriar from Bangladesh. So I do apologize if I mispronounced your name. Dr. Shahrukh Shahriar is a recent graduate from the Ibrahim Medical College, Burdam in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Just like a lot of us here, a lot of medical students, he's a high achiever and holds a diverse interest of hobbies and activities. Currently, he's the regional chairperson of Asian Medical Students Association, the Bangladesh branch, and is also involved in arranging multiple subsidiaries from global health, academics, research, and organizing exchange programs for medical students, not only in Bangladesh itself, but internationally, all around the globe. He was the former president of Science Club of his medical college. And now, after giving this introduction, let me welcome Dr. Shahrukh Shahriar.
Thank you, Prasanna. First, I want to thank everyone involved in this program, especially Tia, for inviting me personally. It's a big opportunity for me. Let me talk about myself at first. There is a very brief introduction about me in the section that Prasanna has said. Let me talk about myself at first. So I am currently in the eve of starting my internship program. That means that I have completed my MBBS program in 2022 January. So hopefully we'll start my internship in May, first week of May. Well, I have to be honest, the actual view of the program is today's program is like to connect with the people. That's like Sushant said, to have friends beyond your boundary and have a very good connection with them to get an idea about the overseas countries, and you can compare. So if I talk about myself, then I should say that I started my AMSA journey. That means the Asian Medical Student Association, which organizes, I'm currently the regional chairperson of my chapter. So in 2018. So the purpose of the joining of the program was like, I want to know about the people whom I cannot meet in person, because it's very trouble for us to meet each and every country's people at a time. So AMSA was a very good platform to meet and think about and to see that how other people think in my age, so that I can get a diverse idea for my education and for organizing program. In my introduction, there was also a point that was like I was the president of my medical college science club. So on that club, I have arranged CPR program, that is a basic life support, basic surgical skills, some quiz program for the medical students based on the basic subjects like anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. So it eventually boosts my confidence, and when I try to organize some program in the international perspective on the platform AMSA, it personally boosts me a lot. So I'm personally grateful for AMSA. In fact, I met Dia and so many amazing persons from different countries through this kind of programs. So I hope that through the link program, I will get to know a lot of people in here, a lot of amazing people, so that I will be more resourceful person after this program. So let's talk about the medical experience that the program is all about. So in our medical system, which is like 5 years course, so it starts by giving an admission exam, and the admission exam is taken by the government itself. So it doesn't matter in which medium you study. It might be in Bangla medium or in English medium, which is very famous in Bangladesh. So then you will have to give a 100-mark exam, and if 2 exam scores are taken, so that means it will be a 300 mark exam, and you will have to score at least 670 plus to get a government medical institution. Then after 65 to 70, if you score within this score, you can get to admit yourself in the private medical college. So the thing is that after you getting admission, after you got admission into the medical college, then there are 4 professional exams. So there are 11 subjects. In the first year, it is anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. In the second year, it is community medicine, forensic medicine. In the third year, it is pathology, microbiology, and pharmacology. And in the final year, it is a medicine, surgery, and gynae. So I have said the subjects, 11 subjects in 4 phases. In our country, the exams are taken in the 4 phases, which we call it the professional examination. First professional examination, second professional examination. So it is controlled by the board. So the board is like, many of your universities are like, the medical institutions are like under university. In our country, it is under one, it is in Dhaka, the capital in here, it is under one university like Dhaka. And there are 90 plus university, 90+ medical college under that university. So that university control the 90 plus medical questions and the exam systems. Well, in the professional exam, the exams, in the professional exams, the exams are taken in written and viva in the clinic, in the basic subjects. And in the clinical phases, there are some short case, long case, that means the clinical examination happens. So the pass mark for the exam is like 60. So you need to get the 60 per at least. And also in the professional exam, the top scorers are recognized by the university, the top 10. The top 10 players are given, and 85% mark. If you 60% is the pass mark, and if you get the 85% mark, that then you will be considered as the honors mark. So that is given by the university. And in some medical colleges, they suppose in my medical college there is a special honors, which is.
All right, can you all please mute your mic? Sorry about that, Dr. Shahriar. Oh, I think you're still on mute.
Oh, okay. Well, so I was saying about the honors mark thing. So 85% is the mark that the university gives to the students, the honors mark. But there are some other recognition from the different medical college. Like if you get the 75% mark, it will get a principal honors or the college honors, something like that, to appreciate the students in here to get good marks in here. Secondly, I need to tell about the examination system inside the medical college, which is when a new graduate, when a high school graduate entered themselves in the medical college, they will have to go through a lot of quiz, which you would call item. Item is called like chapter-wise examination. So suppose like my first item was about sternum, the bones is sternum. So the item is taken by the bones itself, and in physiology, the topic like the cardiovascular system examination, and the biochemistry like the food, like vitamins is the topic. And then comparing 5 or 6 items, another examination is taken, which is called the card exam. Suppose like heart, lungs, muscles, these all are about the thoracic system. So heart, lungs will be the item examination, and the thoracic system will be a card examination. Or in case of bone, it is the femur, like humerus, radius, ulna. These are individually taken, and the upper system is taken in the card. Then there is examination which is called term. Term is taken in 3 or 4 cards. It depends on the syllabus and the time we have got. Then after the term, all the results are taken, and you have to pass at least 2 out of the 3 terms to get yourself seat for the professional examination. I have talked in the previously. So, and you also need to have at least 75% attendance in the class. There are a lot of people, to be honest, they are so much meritorious and think that, okay, you don't need the class, you don't need to attend the class, but that actually needed in very, very much. Well, so this is all about the medical structure in our country. So let's now talk about the pandemic situation in here. So the first case in Bangladesh we have seen in March 2020. That means just 2 years from now. So at that time, the final professional affected the most. In fact, my final professional examination was cancelled 4 times. Even the examination was cancelled just before the day because there was a sudden sharp rise of the COVID, and at that time there was no vaccination and there was no protection, and teachers were concerned about the students because if they want to take this examination, the hostel should be open, and if the hostel is open, then you know that there's a high chance for the infectious rate for the student. That's why that was cancelled. So in our batch, you didn't have to attend any online class at that time, but unfortunately, the junior batches up lower than me, they had to go through a lot. There are some funny things happen. You know, like I talk about the item examination, the topic-wise examination. So the teachers wanted to take the examination, and they saw that some teachers do some very funny things. Like maybe you have known some of that. That there are some people like want to talk with the earphone and give the examination, and I've saw a very funny thing. Like a teacher did a blindfold to all the students and just connect the headphone to the laptop so that they won't cheat. So a lot of funny thing happening in that the pandemic examination. But what I meant to say is like the pandemic decreases the quality of the education in my country. I'm not talking about the everyone because I've given an example. And the second thing is like there is a very bad vibe is going on, like the pandemic batch. The pandemic batch that has passed, they have no clinical experience or they have the lack of clinical experience, something like that. But to be honest, I feel like that is not appropriately right and appropriately wrong. It's a 50-50 conversation from my side because we start our clinical journey in the third year. So from the third year, our clinical placement done from medicine, surgery, gynae. So from the third year, we have some clinical experience for the examination and for the diagnosis as well. Maybe in the final year, we do the emphasis on that subject because our examination happens on that. So it's a 50-50 thing for us. Well, the final thing about the pandemic is like, for me and the people like me who are very much want to give time in the extracurricular activities, which is like, I personally feel like when my examination got cancelled so many times, I thought that let me use the time in the proper way. How can I utilize my time for my betterment? So I thought that AMSA, Asian Medical Student Association, was a very good platform to give some time in here to know more about. I was talking about the people, to know more about the people, to boost my confidence, to be honest. And I feel like the first thing to join in here was like English is not my mother tongue. So I thought that whenever I want to talk to other people other than my country, so I need to talk in English. So I need to be at least fluent enough to make myself understandable to the other. It doesn't matter how many knowledge I have. If I cannot transmit that or cannot gain that, then there is no gain. I believe. So that was the first thing, and the second thing was like to know about a lot of people. And the third thing is like, I want to get some new ideas, which I have already implemented in my medical college, like exchange program. Let's talk about the exchange program exactly. The thing is that exchange program is a very new thing in our country because a lot of people are very much shy and a lot of people are very much a stereotype, in fact, because we all are very shaky to get some new ideas and to do some new things out of the box steps. But to be honest, AMSA has boost me to think about the outside the box and implement it. And to be honest, I personally am very much humbled and very successful in myself for my mind that I could done some 2 exchange program. I have done it, and another is ongoing with the Taiwan and Thailand, which is going to be happening in the last week of May. The meeting is going on, and in the global health subsidiaries under the AMSA International, which I met Dia in there. She was a very amazing person. I learned a lot from her as well. So that global health, I have been working the global health since 2020, 2020. That means more than 2 years in a row. So I'm sort of a bit senior right now. So anyway, so done a lot of programs in global health as well. A global health program is also going to happen, which is the interchapter collaboration program. So that this time the collaboration will happen with Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Kyrgyzstan. So this is amazing. And I told always my juniors that try to involve yourself with this kind of organization. Maybe I will not be here few days later, but you try to stay and get the benefits from here, and you will have to find the benefits. So this is all about the pandemic time, and I want to finish with two things, which is after the graduation of my MBBS course, a lot of people right now are thinking about going through the different countries. Our first choice right now, there is a rush going on to go to the UK. Maybe you have heard about the PLAB exam. So a lot of people are going. A lot of my friends are planning for the USMLE and for the AUSMLE as well. So, so this is the plan that students are happening. And if they want to stay in our country, then we have a 2-degree post-graduation degree, which is called the FCPS and the MD. So if anyone wants to pursue their career in here, they try to get that. So this is all about I think I took more time than Dia has told me to do. So I hope you didn't get bored, and thank you very much for listening to me.
No, thank you so much, Dr. Sharia, for sharing your experiences. It's quite interesting to know how, even though we all are medical students, the structure of med school is quite different from based on which uni, which country you are from, especially with the pandemic, the measures implemented, like with the blindfolds, quite interesting to know. And despite that, you have taken so much initiative to make sure that med students in Bangladesh get equal, if not more, opportunities than rest of the medical students. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us. And hopefully we can go on to the questions a little bit later on once we're all done with the presentation. So now I would like to, there has been just a quick change in our list of speakers. Dr. Avi Singh would be going in next. So Dia, can you please share your slide with Dr. Avi Singh? Yeah. Dr. Singh, are you there?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for coming in, Dr. Avi Singh. I'll just take this time to introduce our speaker, Dr. Avi Singh from India. He is an MBBS graduate from Government Medical College in Amritsar. He is also a high academic achiever and is quite passionate about pursuing neurology. He was the former National Vice Chairperson of International Affairs at India's National Medical Student Association, AMSA India, and is currently working as National Academics Officer at AMSA India's Bioethics Unit. He is India's National Ambassador for Global Neurosciences Association, GNA, and has been actively involved with Asian Medical Student Association, International Research Journal, IMA MSN, National Neurology Newsletter editorial team, as well as Rotaract Club of, I'm completely mispronouncing this, Caduceus in the past. So please welcome Dr. Avi Singh.
Hi, Upasna. Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you so much for the last minute change in the order of speakers. And I'm so sorry for the other speakers, but I definitely try to keep it short and meaningful and crisp. Upasna, I hope that I'm audible and visible.
I can't see your video. Is it just me?
I could briefly see him, but now I think we've lost him.
Sorry about this, guys.
And visible now?
Yes, we can see you well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I think I'm stuck at a place with a in terms of the net. But again, I first let me begin by saying for all the words that you said, Upasana, thank you so much. But I am so privileged and blessed that I got the opportunities to be able to do all of that and then constantly evolve myself. So what happens, like we have three, I would say for sure, very amazing speakers with extraordinary privileges. And I can say, at least for myself, that I don't necessarily believe that there are only specific people who are extraordinary. All of us have been very regular medical students with our own interests, with our own passions, with our own inclinations. With all of us have had those days when we think, oh, if I could have that quality of that person, or that guy has such great speaking skills, or he's so confident and everything. It's a beautiful journey that all of us have gone through, and which all of you over here listening equally capable of. So what I'm going to focus also on is how do you seize the right opportunities where you can grow through the process. And at the same time, what I very firmly believe is no matter what, where you are, your utmost responsibility is to give back to the society in any way possible. When an opportunity comes up where you can give back to the society just by talking, I think it's not your choice, it's your responsibility that you give back. So just to brief everyone up, what I'll do is I'll try to divide my talk into three parts. The first one is going to be how the life as an intern, as a doctor in India, affected by and large, so that we have some educational part to ourselves. And this is just not another coffee with Karan talk. The second part that I think I would want to discuss is how does the medical education system in India runs? Very briefly again, but so that we have a global knowledge, right? I will not go into very much details, but I think it's, as one of the biggest democracies in the world, this can definitely go up in your case segment of the brain. And the third thing that I want to talk about is what I think my advice or recommendation or learnings from my own journey to suggest people who are still in their medical journey, how to go about life, how to go about education, how to go about academics, and how to go about your social life, because it's all very difficult to balance, right? So yeah, the first part, the tragic part, the most educative part, but a very important part, how did the COVID pandemic affect the Indian subcontinent? Number one, I like to think India of not just one country, but it's a holding together federation. It's lots of different little places with their own meanings, old traditions, in a lot of respects, their own countries clubbed together. So no one person can educate you enough about India. It's that beautiful and challenging at the same time. But I'll talk about the place that I come from, which is Punjab, like the favorite Indian part of India. What how things happened. First of all, India is a developing country in the most respectable, decent way I can put it, which means that in India, the concerns in healthcare much more things like infections, things like trauma, things like things which are not even seen in developed countries. Like if I'm in US, the last thing on my mind to diagnose something would be tuberculosis. But in India, like anything goes wrong, the first thing we consider is tuberculosis, because it's one of those diseases that is highly associated with overcrowding, highly associated with prevalence, right? So things are different. So in India, we are privileged to not overthink about things that are not urgently fatal. Okay, so that definitely reflected in the patient's inside and the doctor's inside. For example, I remember this very one specific day where I was working in the obs and gynae department as an intern. And so over there, our duties some days is to check the blood pressure and check the weight of every pregnant patient, because we need to monitor eclampsia and pre-eclampsia. So there are about 80 people, 80 women standing in one line, and I'm the only intern who's like checking it out. I have a specific time, and then it's just the release that the pandemic is on, and it's very real in that situation. And then as someone who's privileged to be educated enough, I know what COVID is. I know what the precautions for COVID is. I know that I need to be at a distance from my patient. I need that I need to wear a mask. Why? Because no matter we don't see the virus, we know it's there, right? For someone who is living below poverty line, someone who cannot see the virus, who has not had the privilege to be educated, which is most of our patients at a government setup, they're like, we don't even care. We don't see the virus. Before COVID kills us, there are 100 things that can kill us, including this childbirth. So how do you convince a population of patients who do not believe the pandemic is real, a nation where the biggest controversy, the biggest question for a very long time had been if vaccines are a hoax or not? So even though you as doctors understand what is going on, so being knowledgeable, being wise are two very different things. That is what I learned in my internship. How do you convince someone to follow some things for their own reasons, while knowing that there is no way on earth you can make them believe in the COVID pandemic? I like to think of some developed nations like US as very highly aware, healthcare aware populations. So again, literacy and healthcare literacy are two very different things. I've had in the pandemic the most literate royal Indian aunties, as you call them, who can who have the just 1 second, Upasana.
No worries.
Sorry. So I'm at a place and we have gunmen surrounding us. So they were here to ask that they're just going to have tea, which is like the national beverage of India in all respects, tea. So you can't really say no to someone having tea. Okay. So, so they will be the most literate people, studied from the greatest of institutions in India. But when it comes to healthcare literacy, it's an absolutely different story. People cannot be convinced that vaccines are real if they do not believe in it. They cannot be convinced that virus does actually do something if they're not convinced. They cannot be convinced that a cyber virus is different from a biological virus. They cannot be convinced. So you have to know that which population you are tackling. All right. Yeah, Deepti, I had them. They've gone to have some tea. So I'm a pretty vulnerable target right now, but I'm absolutely enjoying this. So you need to know that which population am I tackling. If I'm with my subordinates, my juniors, or some staff who are healthcare aware, I am that person who in ways you can understand. So there was an article I wrote which was titled 10 things you need to know about vaccination. So in India, how things go for a lot of people, I cannot say for the rest of the countries, but I'm sure you might have met people whom things are in black and white, technically something splitting, right? So either they are pro or they are anti-vaccine. Either vaccine will solve everything in the world, they will just not do anything. But as scientists, as doctors, as people of logic, I think we have a responsibility to understand, agree, read, listen, understand in a way which is not biased. So we need to understand that what vaccines do, like for a tubercular meningitis, tuberculosis, we give vaccine in India to every child as soon as the first year because it's that prevalent. But how much does it decrease the incidence of disease? Almost 0%. But we still give it because it definitely decreases the incidence of severity of diseases like tubercular meningitis. So you might have patients who will be like, we got vaccinated for tuberculosis, but we still had the disease. And that is enough for them to break their belief in something such as a vaccine. So you need to know if you're approaching someone at a neuroplastic age where you can build their beliefs, give them logic. That is the person that you want to educate. For some people who won't just change, who have a very logical reason to not care about COVID because they will die anyway out of 100 reasons, you have to adopt another strategy. So yeah, so that was, I think, one of a couple important points I wanted to touch about the pandemic medical life here, because I think as such, the mental confusion, the stress levels, the doctors getting overworked, burnt out, that is something that definitely happened here, and which the other speakers will obviously definitely talk about. So I want to talk about something very specific, how as Indian doctors, we did not have time to even think that COVID can be something that we would not want to go work for. Like we had so much to do, like we have to go to work, like we're the only profession that has to go to work. So you have to be at the front line, you have to feel proud about what you do, because you are the only people who can make a change, while obviously keeping yourself safe, because the first rule of triage is keep yourself safe before you go to rescue someone. Otherwise, the people who come to rescue will have to rescue two people, right? So you need to be very, very vigilant about that. Okay, so I'll end part which I tried was as much educative while not being boring for everyone. So the second part is the medical education system in India. Okay, I like to divide into certain things. I might not take the names of the exams, but I'll make it simple for you. So in India, after our pre-med, which is our 11th and 12th or +1, +2 grade, we take, which is our basic sciences subjects for 2 years. We enter after an exam, which is called the All India Pre-Medical Entrance Test, which gets us into MBBS all across the country. All right. That is a 5.5-year course, which includes 1 year of internship in every subject, in every field, right? So you start with pathology, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and the last years are ENT plus surgery, obs, gynae, peds, all right? So it's a beautiful system if it works how it is meant to, but things are rarely ideal depending upon which part of the world you are in. So at the end of the day, schools and colleges get very different. I was privileged enough that I liked to study. I liked physics, chemistry, biology. That is the only reason that I took medical. I didn't want to be doctor as such, but I did not want to not know about stuff. So I had been a student who used to score, who used to top in schools or at least participate in a lot of things. But the first day when we entered medical college and we scored like on an anatomy class test, we scored like 40 out of 100 and 45 out of 100. And we were in shock, like, what is happening? We're supposed to be the brilliant people who cracked pre-medical and entered. And then it hits you like, and people are like, 40 is good. 40% is amazing. Like, we literally got zeros there and ones there and twos there. And you know what that taught me? That you might be a genius, you might be so hardworking, but sometimes what is not is how to accept failure, how to accept things that you don't expect, and be okay with it. Your knowledge, your intelligence is way beyond after school that it can be calculated by any one exam. I might meet the most intelligent person with all the knowledge in the world. If he does not know how to communicate himself, how good is he to me? Not really. If he does not know what to say, when to say, he's not good to me. If he tells a cancer patient after diagnosing him within 1 minute, oh, I'm so sorry, you have cancer, you're not intelligent to me. You're not wise, you're smart. Because if you're not able to deal with the patient, you might have all the knowledge in the world, but it's very important of surroundings. So I remember in a surgery in a day we had like we go as interns and we consider our patients subjects. So because what happens in the medical, you think that I have all the symptoms, that is the disease that I'm suffering from. So when we go and patient, I was with a couple of friends who were examining the of a male patient and like, sir, this looks like cancer, na? Sir, this looks like cancer. Na? I had to watch the.
I think, Doctor, we just
Came back. Can you hear us, Dr. Singh?
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, all good.
Sorry. Yeah. So you have to be very much aware about how you go telling some things to certain people and how much you want to tell them. So there is something that I want to talk about after this, which helped me with this a lot, and I want to appreciate it. So this is the MBBS part of India that everyone has to do before you become a doctor. So these are the 5.5 years that everyone has completed before they say that they are a doctor in India. So technically, you're allowed to do surgeries, you're allowed to prescribe medicines and conduct deliveries. Those are the three things I am allowed to do in India after becoming a doctor. Of specialties, all right? For that, and there's another entrance exam which is called the PG entrance exam, post-graduation entrance exam. That is obviously even difficult to crack, and on the same grounds.
I think we lost the connection again. And he's back.
I'll choose to go to a better connectivity place and a dimmer lighting, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
Perfect. So you give your 3-year course for a specialization, assuming you crack it in the first go. If you do that for endocrinology or cardiology or neurology, you need to super specialize, which has like one seat in all of Punjab of one state. So I don't think how realistic it is to plan your life like that, but that also takes 2 years. So technically, to be a full-fledged doctor in India, it takes you anywhere, including your basic sciences years, 12 to 13 years, which have gone nowhere. All right. And that is one thing that I learned from there when I calculated that. First, tell someone to go for medicine in India only if they're crazy passionate about it, because otherwise it makes no sense. Most people around me, I'm actually at a friend's wedding who was a non-medico and she's getting married. And I'm like, all right, all my non-medico friends are getting married now. And I have just completed my studies. So yeah, that's a very common sighting in India. All right. But again, I prefer to learn two things from here. First, in your life, never think that you are not young because of your age. All the doctors are absolutely privileged to believe that you are 3 to 4 years younger than your peers. Everything can go longer. Secondly, it's all in your head. If you're young at your heart and your brain, and you know that there are things that you still need to do in life, go for them. Like, don't think that you need to get married already because people around you are getting married, right? So this is something which is very difficult in India because there's a lot of societal pressure. So if your daughter turns 26, that's like parents are gonna go berserk that you need to get married. So guys, everyone outside, please feel pretty lucky because that does happen over here. And thirdly, yeah. So what I want to say is, if you are choosing medicine, and if you are one of those people who think like, I'll let me study, give my exams, and then I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to earn crazy and then enjoy my life. Oh, let me just crack this exam. That race is never going to end. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, including being in medical college, this is the time you have to study. This is the time you have to enjoy. It's together. There is no other way about it. You cannot wait for things to happen because the journey that you've chosen, it's not a 3-year course, it's not a 2-year course, it's your life. And even after that, there are CMEs, continued medical educations. As a doctor, you never stop learning and following your profession. So that is the reason you do not work as doctors, you practice as doctors, because you're always practicing. All right. And the third thing regarding this is, you can either choose to go with the Indian PG system, or you can specialize via USMLE or the Australian system. So that is when people come from India after their MBBS to either follow PLAB in UK or USMLE for US, or the system in Australia, which which I think I'm most qualified to talk about USMLE because I've already given my USMLE steps 1 and 2. I am a little aware about the journey. But again, it's the parallel thing in the 3 countries wherever you want to specialize. So I'll tell you one important difference, because I am extremely passionate about neurology. So I wanted to be a neurologist because of a lot of reasons, which is another conversation. But in India, to be a neurologist, you need to specialize first in medicine, then super specialize in neurology. So that is like 12 years. In US, they consider neurology a specialty itself. So you can directly after your MBBS get selected in neurology. All right. So that is one point. And absolutely loving I'll take the last couple of minutes and wrap it up. The last thing is, anyone who wants to really know and has love for academics, I would really recommend to giving the USMLE exams, because they focus on how do you talk to the patients as much as the depth of knowledge that you can go through, because your MBBS gets you across the width of knowledge, but depth is as much important. And the last point I want to touch on is what I recommend as students, humans, and speakers and listeners and people who are going to rock the world in the coming time is, wherever you go, at the end of the day, one, follow your heart, follow your passion, because that will have no cost, no price. Once you earn crazy amount of money, you will be like, what do I do of this money? If you don't know where to like use that, invest that money. Okay. And secondly, one, it's very important because we are at stages in our lives where we ask for a lot of things. Like we tell God, I'm studying this hard, let me crack this exam. Oh, I'm in love with that girl. Like, let me just be with her and things like that. We're just always asking for stuff. Once you think you are satisfied, I'm not saying that don't have your demands and requests and stuff. Once you think you are at a stage and you're elevated enough, always give back to the society. It's a circle. It's an absolute circle, including your academics. Like we think that we get so competitive that you know something and you don't want to share it with people. That happens to a lot of us. But actually think it like that. If there's something beautiful I learned from some person, there is no way I can give it back to him because he already knows it. The only way I can give it back is by giving it to someone who does not know it. And trust me, that cycle will actually run off beautifully, and there's no greater happiness that you'll get. And I am so sorry for the greater time I took. I'll just wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Upasana. Thank you, everyone, Dia, for such a beautiful session. It's been an absolute privilege.
No, thank you so much, Dr. Singh. This was such a fantastic talk. Really appreciate you talking to us and sharing your experiences. I'm pretty sure we learned a lot as well. And some of the key points that you mentioned, I think, as you can see in the chat, everyone's talking about it. So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, Upasana. I have just one little request because I
Yes.
might need to a little early. Can
Yeah.
we have a photo with all the speakers
Yeah,
and all the audience?
of course, of course.
I want to remember everyone here.
Just a second. Let me go to gallery. Okay, so we have all the speakers here. I'll just now, yeah, I'll take a video now. Sorry, photo now. I've taken couples, so it should be fine.
If people want to get their videos on, if they want to be included in the photo, feel free.
Yes, if you guys want to include get included in the photo as well, please feel to turn on your videos. Okay, taking some more in 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. I will let you go. I know you you are a bit busy at the moment, so thank you. Now, Dia, we'll move on to our next speaker, Dr. Sam Jerami. So I have the great pleasure of introducing Dr. Sam Jerami from Australia. Sam is a recent graduate from Australian National University Medical School, the medical school some of us are part of in Canberra, and is currently a junior doctor at Gosford Hospital in Central Coast, which is just north of Sydney in New South Wales. He was the president of ANU Medical Students Society in 2020 and led the medical students body advocacy in response to the pandemic during this tumultuous time. He is particularly interested in primary healthcare and health system. Having seen Sam work incredibly hard, I know the impact he has had on medical students in ANU. So I vouch for him. So let me please welcome Dr. Sam Jerami.
Hey guys, that's very kind of you, Pasana. Now, sorry, I'm just a boomer. Let me try and share my screen. Now, can you guys hear me okay? And can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So as you very kindly said, I am a graduate from Australian National University. That's in Canberra, sort of halfway between Sydney and Melbourne. I'm working now in a hospital just north of Sydney. This picture here, that's our med school, or one of the prettier buildings. It has all the study rooms where I spent a lot of time not studying. And I'll try and keep all of this brief, but I was told to tell you guys a little bit about a day in the life of med students in Australia, and especially at ANU. I guess a day might be you have some gastro or ID lectures in the morning, and then you have a 2-ton abdo exams in the afternoon. That is if you're a preclinical student, or you might be a 3rd or 4th year student and you spend the day in clinic or on a ward or theater or wherever else doctors find themselves around Canberra. More exotic locations are you can be in a Supermax prison facility in Goulburn, or some farm near Canberra, or a private hospital in Sydney. So it's a pretty all-inclusive experience. But anyway, it's a medical school. There's lectures and tutes and labs and clinical placements. I think what makes NU special above everything else is its community. So we pride ourselves on being supportive and warm. We help each other out, and we're a team. And we extend that to our faculty as well. And when shit hits the fan, we face it together. I don't know if I'm supposed to swear on an international talk. Anyway, speaking of shit hitting the fan, we all vaguely remember sort of February, March of 2020, when COVID really became a pandemic. I happened to be the president of our student society then. I was very lucky to be at the forefront of how that actually impacted the medical school experience. In around that early March, we were hearing from places like the UK and Italy originally. We were hearing things like the very fabric of society is being torn apart through lockdowns, medical services are being overwhelmed, and in the case of Italy, final year students were being called in to help out with the health response because there were so many patients and the doctors were falling sick or dying. So that was sort of the outlook we were looking at when the pandemic first started. And the challenge for a medical school in a situation like that is duplex, because first you have the challenge of providing a decent education when everything's falling apart. And secondly, you're cognizant that you're producing a health workforce that is now even more critical than it is usually. And we all know some of the solutions that came after that, but none of it was actually obvious at the time. So this thing called Operation Graduate was born. It was a medical school initiative led by a director at the time, and its primary aim was to ensure that final year students at ANU actually graduate and enter the workforce as junior doctors, hence the name. And then it had a number of secondary objectives. So continuing education delivery for the other years and enrolling first year students and maintaining maximum possible safety while doing all of that. And that included lots and lots of layers of contingency planning in the context of that broader Australian response. And we were a very risk averse country, especially initially. So we had closed the international borders and there was a nationwide lockdown when COVID first became a pandemic. From my perspective, what this looked like was around middle of March. For about 2 weeks straight, we would start every day with a 7 o'clock meeting with these lovely people, some of the faculty members. And we would try and make some decisions about how everything's going to work out when we have to go into lockdown and stop all the lectures. And then I would spend the rest of the day in subcommittee meetings or finding other students to fill those subcommittee meetings so that we could provide some student input into all of these different decisions that had to be made. And there were some ridiculously quick decisions that were made, and we were very lucky that the med school gave us seats at all of those virtual tables for those seats where those decisions were being made. Some of the outcomes were this, and I'm sure all of this is familiar to anybody who studied anything during the pandemic anywhere. Placements were paused for all of our students for 6 weeks, for some of them for 9 weeks, while we were negotiating with the Canberra Health Services to let us back in. Initially, we were viewed as transmission vectors and PPE wasters. And eventually we had to convince people that no, we also happen to be the interns of next year and the year after that, and somebody has to help run the hospital. So eventually they let us back on. There were lots of compromises. So clinical students got back to clinical placement, but the first and second years, not so much. And a couple of them are here now. They can attest to that. So some of them actually went home to their hometowns for months and didn't come back to Canberra until later in 2020, which was a rare, occasionally wonderful silver lining, and I'll get to that later. Pretty much everything that could be done online was moved online. So that's lectures, group sessions, even anatomy demonstrations. It was a crazy time. Some of those stuff are remaining online and likely to remain online as well. And then catch-ups had to be planned for things that can't be moved online. You can't practice venipunctures at home, or you shouldn't. With contingencies for outbreaks, local lockdowns trapping students, assessments had to be changed so that they can be done online. We had some really tough conversations about privacy and invigilation, but all of that was eventually overcome. And as a community, we had to adapt. We had to continue supporting each other. We came together with other medical student societies around Australia. We tried to exchange ideas, we collated resources. It was actually quite an interesting collaborative experience that we all went through as we were trying to respond to COVID. We learned a few things, and I've tried to distill it to 3. First thing is disaster management. We have to be prepared. There are many challenges ahead of us. There will be, whether as individual practitioners or as a profession or as a society. I mean, to get low-hanging fruit, climate change is not going to solve itself. There will be other pandemics. There will be, unfortunately, it seems there will continue to be wars, mass migrations, natural disasters. There will be ignorance and hatred and insular thinking and all kinds of other challenges that we will face. And as a generation, we must be able to pick up that mantle and carry it forward and carry it passionately and compassionately and in a direction that benefits humanity. And we must know how to prioritize as we do that. We must know how to make quick decisions and respond and be ready for disasters. In doing this, we have to work as a team, as we have through COVID. If any of you, as some of you who are clinical students now, will know, if you've ever been in an acute medical setting, teamwork is God. Everyone has a role to play. Somebody's getting in the IV access, somebody's managing the airway, someone's checking the algorithm, one person's leading the team, and so on. It takes the whole team. And facing the future challenges will be no different. It's all about teamwork. And the final, and I think most important thing to remember is that the structures that we are in are fluid, that they're only what we make them to be. So if someone said 3 years ago that, hey, I'd really like to live in a faraway place, I'd really like to go back to my hometown in a faraway place and spend the next 6 months online because my family's disadvantaged and they could really use my help, or because I'm struggling with my mental health. Can I take my study online for 6 months? We tell them, well, of course not, but hey, you can take a year off if you'd like. But we know that's possible now. We know that it's possible to educate from a distance. We know it's possible to bend and reshape how we do things to fit our circumstances. And look at what we're doing right now. That's a byproduct of COVID. We weren't having conversations like this a couple of years ago internationally so easily. So we got to think big. And if we want, for example, if we want to get best medical education to the remotest corner of this planet, how can we do that? Billions of dollars were poured into maintaining economies and shielding communities through the pandemic, and justly so. Having seen that kind of mobilization of resources with political will there not be some way to improve health access for the poorest people in our society? Of course there is. Once you've seen how much capacity there is to move things around when it's really necessary, you stop believing in people telling you, no, it's too hard, it's too logistically difficult to organize that. And we have proven to ourselves that we're not prisoners of our structures as we thought. And we can reshape them with audacity. It'll take work, but we can, and we will. Anyway, I'll stop ranting.
Thank you so much for the talk, Sam. My opinions are very biased because I was a med student while Sam was president, like a second-year student, and I saw how much effort Sam put in to make sure students get the best quality education, as well as making sure there is flexibility associated with learning. So thank you so much, Sam, for all of your hard work. Really appreciate it. And now, to our final speaker, Dia, do you mind sharing your slide, please?
Sam, can you please stop sharing so that I can share? Absolutely loved the talk. Absolutely loving all the talks by all the speakers. Okay, can people see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so
yeah. So to our final speaker, Kausalya Arini from Indonesia. Kausalya is a second-year medical student at the University of Udayana in Bali, Indonesia. She looks forward to creating a progressive change through social campaigns and community services on health, education, social and environmental issues. She is currently the leader of Udayana University's Medical Student Association, an organization that provides services in developing potential and accommodating aspirations of around 800 students. She's also an active member of the scientific community of the Udayana Faculty of Medicine and staff of a medical scientific journal of the Faculty of Medicine at Udayana. So please welcome our final speaker of the evening, Kausalya Arini. Over to you, Kausalya.
Okay, hello. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I would like to say thank you for all parties that involved in this wonderful event here. And I think that I'm the only one who haven't received my medical doctor title here. But yeah, it is really great for me to learn a lot from wonderful speaker. And yeah, I'm pretty grateful to be able to participate and share my experience as the preclinical medical student here. Okay, I'm going to share my stories first, but I'm going to go ahead by screen sharing my content. Okay, is it visible yet?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for your abilities. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Kosalia, and I'm the second year preclinical medical student from Udayana University, Bali, Indonesia. Okay, so okay, now let's talk how it feels like to be a medical student in Indonesia. To answer this, I'm going to explain to you and tell you a story of how we as a medical student through the journey before receiving our medical doctor title. So, okay, we have stages in studying medicine. It is based on the national standard of competence for medical doctor, and it is designed for 3.5 years of bachelor phase and 2 years of clinical rotation phase. So we have a preclinical phase, and I'm in the clinical phase before, and after that, after we finish the clinical phase, we need to pass a standardized national exam before we receive the title of the medical doctor. So, okay, because I'm currently still in the preclinical phase, now I'm going to talk more about my experience and my perspective as a preclinical medical student here. So what do we do here? We have several agendas throughout the process of our learning. We have lectures, problem-based learning session, plenary session, basic clinical skill, and I believe this is one of the most feared agenda for medical student is the examination and the OSCE. Okay, now let me explain about the lectures. So we have we're making the system of the block lectures. The block is like a combination of several lectures, and as the preclinical phase, it is commonly for us to just sit and learn and well about 4 until 5 lectures per day. And usually it is introduced us for the lectures are mostly aimed to prepare us before we're getting into the clinical phase. For example, like the first year, I'm receiving the basic medical science, for example, like anatomy, biochemistry, and physiology, and so on and so forth. And now I'm currently in second year of medical student, and that's why now I'm still learning the system of our organ and our body and the clinical correlation towards the system. And then we have 4 until 5 lectures per day, and the next day will be continued by the problem-based learning system. This is where we are formed into a group of 12 people, 12 students, and we are given certain tasks and certain cases. And here we are discussing the problem through a 2-hour session of small group discussion. And then the result of our discussion in small group discussion will be presented in the plenary session. This is where the whole group are going to present our case as the result of the studying during the small group discussion session. And also we have, we're not only talk about the theoretical and lectures, but we also have the basic clinical skills. It is to prepare us for the standardized and standardized competence for the general practitioner in the future. And this basic clinical skills usually conducted at the every end of the semester, and it's usually talk about several clinical skills that is important for us and throughout the lectures throughout the semester here. Okay, and then we have the OSCE and exam. Maybe because of the pandemic, we have been conducting exam only via online. So it is funny because we are doing it online in our home and students' home in my bedroom, and to make sure that they are not cheating and so on and so forth. We are obligated to bring another phone as the surveillance camera. So yeah, so I think that Udayana University has a great job in order to prevent the case of cheating and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is how we look like in the preclinical phase. This is where we're doing a student group discussion with my 11 friends, and we have one facilitator. to accompany us discussing the case that are given. And this is how the practicum and the lectures are given via online session. Okay, so that's about the preclinical phase. How about the clinical phase? Yeah, I've conducted several interview and questions toward my friends in clinical phase, and it's basically just it's a clinical placement where students are finally able to jump in and in the clinical setting where they can meet the patient, they can work in the hospital, they can discuss about the case and journal discussing with the specialist, with the senior doctor there. Okay. So I entered my university year that at the moment where it was the first peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I've never doing it offline before. So yeah, we're doing it online. What challenges do we face? This is what what me and my friends have thought about the challenges that we face during the COVID-19 during as a medical student as during the pandemic. Surely first, we have a limited access to offline educational facilities. For example, we are limited to access the cadaver as a human anatomy models. We are limited to access the histology laboratory, biochemistry laboratory, and so on and so forth. We also have limited interaction with peers. We are prone to external obstacles and distraction. For example, the internet connection and devices issue here. And surely one of the, I think it most significant effect is the different atmosphere of studying. Okay, the real challenge is that we, as the medical student, we need to able to adapt. We need to adjust our behavior, adjust our habit with this limitation and this situation. We need to be able to seek for the solution of our certain problems. For example, like we need to control ourselves to be self-disciplined and not to be easily distracted by our phones and by social media because we're using laptop and digital devices here. And we need to be able to keep up with the pace and find ourselves how to study effectively in every block with our friends. So yeah, it's something that we need to be able to adapt and adjust as a medical student. Okay, I think that's done. We're talking about the academical phase, an academical fashion. Now I'm going to talk about, is there any activities that we as medical student in Udayana can do outside the curricular session? Okay, I'm going to, we actually have several activities and many activities outside the academic fashion, is for example, like organization and other committees even. But now I'm going to highlight the most on how the activities that are responding to COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so me, because I lead the organization, I lead the Student Association of Medical Students in Udayana University. We have conducted several community services where we conducted health services, where we are targeting the elderly and the children here. Then we're targeting the people from the rural area, or the area is where the health facilities are limited, and where people have the limited access to proper health facilities and so on and so forth. And therefore, it is our time as a student be able to make a great impact for our communities by helping them, giving a proper educational about COVID-19 or about health education, more about health education. On this is the where I also participated and I volunteered in in an event called Udayana's Teaching. It is where we as the volunteer has the opportunities to teach elementary students about basic basic information like counting and learn how to read for the areas that is or for the rural area that is needed that is underdeveloped from the other area in Bali. I think the challenge that we face here when conducting community services is that we often face people who are having the hesitancy about the COVID-19 as a threat. And that's why we as the medical student need to able to communicate it properly on how we should perceive COVID-19 as a threat, how we should resolve the vaccination on COVID-19 vaccination is a hoax, how we need to debunk that perception towards community. And this is I think this is our roles and our jobs to be able to educate people with with the true facts of COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so it's not only towards the community, we also have the activities toward the students' advocation here in Udayana University. So in my organization, we have a program which so-called the Voice of HMKU, which is the organization that I lead currently. We provide a platform for students to deliver their aspiration, and we pass it to the stakeholders, to the dean of faculty, and this event is conducted in the end of every semester, and we also accept aspiration from preclinical and clinical med students. So I think this event the program is important, especially when we're talking about the online situation here, because students may have problems that they're facing during the online lectures scenario and online setting. So that's why we need to be able to gather their problems, their issue, and we can provide the platform for them to deliver their issue, and we can pass it through to the stakeholders. Okay, we're also doing several online health campaign that we share through our social media of our organization. Here, we share about the latest update about the COVID-19, and we also share several health educational information that we think that is useful for everyone to acknowledge that there is issue about health. So yeah, we are doing it every month routinely, and we're still doing it and every month now. Okay, there are a lot of other activities that we conducted here, but I'm just going to wrap it up. We also have done online seminars about the health issue. For example, last year we conducted a seminar about COVID-19 vaccines, how it can increase our immunity to save lives, and so on and so forth. We are doing it annually and every year. And we also conducted research toward the COVID-19. And I think several of my friends have done many research towards the quality of life that essential health worker has at the hospital are having now under the COVID-19 pandemic situation here. And we also have the vaccination team. So what it is basically where several teams, where the students are making a group of team where they can be a volunteer, they can be a vaccinator in a place where people can get vaccine and so on and so forth. So these are the things that us as the medical student can do outside the academic activities. Okay, I think that's all about my stories, and I'm going to say thank you for the attention. I'm going to apologize for my shortcomings that I have done here. Maybe for the last message that I want to say is that even though I'm still a preclinical medical student, I haven't received any medical doctor title, but I think that we all have the capabilities to create impact to our communities, to create impact to create progressive changes to our surroundings. So that's why no matter who you are, if you want to do something great for the community, you can do it now, so on and so forth. Okay, I think it's all about my stories here. I'm going to say thank you and give it back to Upasana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kausalya, for the wonderful talk. Despite just being a second year medical student, you and the rest of the Udaya University have achieved so much. So you're just being extremely humble while acknowledging your shortcomings. So thank you so much for the wonderful work that you have done so far and will keep on doing as well. So in interest of time, we might just skip the Q&A session. Our speakers here have been for quite a long period of time. So I just want to, Dia, can you share the slides, please? Sorry, the technical difficulties of Zoom. Yep. I just want to, first of all, thank you, Dr. Deepthi Talalikar and Dr. Nicola Chambry, who are the link lead, as well as Link and Share staff lead, for their help with this event and for their continued support as well. And to our great esteemed speakers who have taken the time out of their busy schedule to talk to us about their experiences and to give us an international perspective. From Shahrukh, talking about the importance of the communications, as well as the things, acknowledging the shortcomings, as well as working towards the shortcomings. Then with Dr. Avi talking about how important it is to live your life and not get sunk into the world that is medicine. From Sam, acknowledging the importance of the teamwork and adaptability, and also with Kaushalya talking about the importance of coming together and doing work for the community. So thank you so much for sharing your wonderful insights. This event wouldn't have been possible without you guys. So now I'll speak. Now we'll pass on the baton to Shashank, who will be continuing with the SpeedNet session. So over to you, Shashank.
Yeah, thank you. Just give me a second, guys. I'll be getting my slides up. Can I share my screen now? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. All right, can people see my screen? All right, perfect. So this is the part that I'm sure all of you are waiting for, just to get to know each other better, get close, and also get some unique perspectives. So yeah, like I said, the whole point of this session is just to connect people from across the world. And like I said, having a friend in every single country across the globe is personally a dream for me. You know, I'm just going to a random country and I hit my friend up, hey, are you around? And we meet. So honestly, I think that's a great sort of goal to work towards. And I'll be very delightful if you guys can start sharing, start talking. So what SpeedNet is like, it's like speed dating minus the dating part. So obviously we're networking right now. So the whole point of this session is to not spend too much time, however, is just to get the names of people, get their socials. So we have a PowerPoint where you will be able to type in your Instagram, Facebook, whatever you prefer to be contacted by.